of course, the tech industry is booming and it's growing, but there are a lot of other opportunities out there. There's a few other things that, we've been looking into, even just in the used furniture industry. When you really focus in on a niche and can, put your time in that direction, you can find a lot of, a lot of unmet needs and a lot of opportunities there that maybe a lot of people are overlooking in trying to chase that tech boom.
Hello, folks, and welcome. Today, I am excited to be joined by Nick Reichert in the Mastermind. Nick is the co-founder and managing partner of a Denver-based startup, The Good Couch. In 2017, Nick and his co-founders recognized an unmet need in a niche market. The Good Couch specializes in the sourcing, refurbishment, sale, and delivery of gently used couches, love seats, chairs, sectionals, and sets. What's fascinating about this story is how they were able to recognize a need and build a lucrative business to solve it. The Good Couch team was featured in Denver News when they climbed a couch to the tallest peak in the Rocky Mountains, Mount Elbert, to raise money for their nonprofit partner. Just one of the fun things that you guys have been working on over there, Nick, but welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Brad.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into kind of your entrepreneurial journey and where you guys came up with the idea to get started in this. But just to kick things off, what got you interested in entrepreneurship?
I've always had the entrepreneurial bug, I guess I'd say. My dad definitely instilled it in me at a young age. As early as like 10 years old, I was, cutting grass for people, mowing people's lawns, making my own money. And then as I kind of, so my family moved out to Colorado when I was 10 years old. I started a business, myself and then a couple friends when I needed help. When we moved up into the mountains near Denver, noticing that there was a lot of, fire danger around and noticing that a lot of people needed to do some fire mitigation around their homes. So that was probably my first business. Then from there, I went into a few entrepreneurial ventures throughout my high school and college years. I started a coffee roasting company and did online coffee sales with my friend in college, where we were literally just roasting coffee in our dorm room and in the basement of the house that he was renting there off campus and selling that online. So I learned a lot through some of those ventures. Then, I took international business and economics in college, graduated in 2017 in December, and I knew I wanted to start a business, but I wasn't sure where to go. And my friend, Lance Harding, the other co-founder here at The Good Couch, he approached me and he was like, at the time I was still fly fishing guide, which was a lot of what I did during the summers to make some extra money. And I still had my coffee roasting business, which we sold pretty quickly after college. But Lance approached me and said, hey, there's a lot of free couches on Craigslist, and some of them look like they're not in too bad shape. So why don't we go pick one up and fix it up and resell it? So that's what we did. That day we went and picked up a couch, put it in a storage unit, rented out a little storage unit, spent a day working on it, and we didn't know what we were doing, but we, figured it out, YouTubed some stuff, and ended up selling it for like $300 a couple days later. And we were pumped on the idea, and that's kind of how it all got started.
Nice. That's awesome. So how did you, you went through that initial process, refurbished the first one, sold it, got some cash in your pocket, so you guys are pumped about that. When did you start to think, okay, this can be a legitimate business that has some scale to it?
So early on, one of the things that we noticed was there was a two-sided problem. There was the problem of furniture is expensive, it's hard to get, delivery is expensive, and there are only a few options. You've got your used furniture stores, which typically have really high-end stuff, and they're still pretty pricey. You've got your thrift stores, which are, lower end. They're not going to be cleaned or, checked for, cleanliness or anything. And then, of course, your new furniture stores, which are expensive and, they're just costly and deliveries not included. So there was that side of the coin where we knew we could make it easier for people to get affordable used furniture. But while we were trying to figure out how to get our hands on more of this used furniture, we noticed that when we were going to pick up these couches from Craigslist, people were like incredibly grateful for us taking them because maybe they were moving soon, maybe they were getting their new furniture in soon. So we noticed that on the other side of the coin, there were all these people who didn't have a good way to get rid of their couches. They would try to post it on something like Craigslist and have a lot of people fall through. I think it's a problem that a lot of people are familiar with. If you've ever moved, it can just be a huge pain. So what we quickly did was we said, let's connect these two markets and solve both problems at the same time. We started going around to a lot of the new furniture stores in town and saying, hey, like when you guys sell your new furniture, do people need their old furniture picked up, and how do you guys go about that? All of the new furniture stores were really excited to hear that we were working on a resolution to their problem. There's just so many limited options. There's, you can pay a junk removal company, but then your couch goes to waste. You can take it to a thrift store, but you've got to get it there yourself. So we partnered early on with a lot of the new furniture stores in town, and now we're partnered with most of the furniture stores here in Denver, and then also at our location out in Knoxville, to when they sell their furniture to a customer and the customer needs their old stuff picked up, we offer a free in-home pickup service. And from there, we take the couch in, we put it through a 5-step cleaning and refurbishment process, make sure it's structurally sound, and then resell it and offer free delivery.
That's super interesting that you were able to address both of those needs and solve both those problems at one time, and that there was a need from both ends. So when you would approach those different furniture outlets, what was that agreement like with them? Was it just kind of a, hey, when you find somebody, just send them our way? Or were you acting as an arm of the furniture company? How was that set up?
So initially it was just kind of send them our way. We'll start it out, pretty informal and just let them know what we're doing and let their customers try us out. But their customers were always really happy with the efficiency that we worked with. Because we only specialize in upholstered furniture and we're not moving any other big heavy items, we're able to set up our pickups in a really efficient manner, and we're able to set up a lot at a time. So we can work with a lot of different furniture companies. Now the furniture companies, the way we work it out is we just have them give their customers our card, and their customers work with us, and we'll schedule a time around their delivery so that we get their couches out of there before their new furniture gets in. And because we just do couches, we have a lot more time and availability than a lot of other companies that kind of do a little bit of everything. And that's how those partnerships started.
So you hear the word startup in today's day and age, and your mind immediately goes to tech and Silicon Valley and things like that. And I think in an email back and forth between us, your words were that this project you guys were working on, it wasn't exactly a novel idea, but obviously it had some legs. You guys have seen a lot of success within it, and it's been a lucrative opportunity as it turns out. So I love talking about this because I think it helps illuminate the fact that new businesses and startups don't have to be something that's the latest and greatest technology, but can be something that is really just a fundamental need within a market or a niche market especially. But what do you think has allowed this to become such a successful business and really gain traction in the marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, when I got out of college, I'd written my my final papers on a business idea that I had that was in tech and related to the fly fishing industry. And I was tentatively going after that idea, and we were making some moves. But what I realized was it was going to take a lot of capital. It was going to take a lot of knowledge that I didn't have in the tech industry, and it what this idea pretty much fell into our laps. But I think that the reason that it was able to be successful and to grow at the pace that it's been growing is just we were willing to put aside some of the things that maybe we would have preferred to do. My passion is fly fishing. Lance, our other co-founder, his passion is photography. We were able to kind of put those aside and say, hey, look, we've found something here where there is a real unmet need, and we can meet that need and serve these people in that way. And the great thing about it is it's kind of freed us up some time to be able to go pursue our passions on the side and, set our own schedules. He can go off and get into the mountains and do his photography. I can get out and do some fly fishing on the side. And I think that just being willing to not have to focus on, of course, the tech industry is booming and it's growing, but there are a lot of other opportunities out there. There's a few other things that we've been looking into, even just in the used furniture industry. When you really focus in on a niche and can put your time in that direction, you can find a lot of a lot of unmet needs and a lot of opportunities there that maybe a lot of people are overlooking in trying to chase that tech boom.
Yeah, and I think that you bring up a great point when talking about passion, because that's such a common topic today that we hear about. And, I'm guilty of talking about it on this podcast and having guests who are specifically focused on things like passion. But when somebody's of that entrepreneurial mindset, oftentimes it's the idea of running a business that you become passionate about, and you can apply you can still scratch those passion itches and do what you love, but your business can afford you those opportunities. So being open to kind of what direction the journey takes you, I think, is a very important aspect of it, because you never know where you're going to end up when you start going down some of these paths and exploring the opportunities that do come up. So it's pretty cool to see that you guys may have started off thinking that that's where your business was going to take you, as the fly fishing technical advances of our era, but where it's taking you so far. And who knows, maybe you end up going down that route once you've got some great seed capital built up from this amazing business.
I think that passion and doing what you love has become such a buzzword in the entrepreneurial space, where there are so many opportunities to start a business and to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to, and I think people get really caught up on what's my exact passion. Like if I looked at it myself, I would say fly fishing is my passion. So does that mean guiding? Does that mean me actually going out and fishing? Does that mean getting into the tech space and fly fishing? And I could hyper analyze that for hours, and I could just pour over, okay, what exactly do I want to be doing? But I think that being willing to let some of that go and realize that in the greater sense, for a lot of entrepreneurs, your passion could just be being an entrepreneur. To get a business started and to get something off the ground can be so hugely rewarding. And that's what I've found. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that used couches are my passion, but I've absolutely enjoyed and just found so much fulfillment in selling used couches and providing this service and helping people along the way, giving people jobs. And I think that you can find your passion in entrepreneurial endeavors in a lot of different ways, other than just what you might be personally passionate about on the side as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And even finding ways to implement the aspects the things that you enjoy or that you're passionate about within that. And so, maybe within the Good Couch, there's not really any space for fly fishing per se to be part of the business plan. But like you said, helping people, helping develop people and provide a really quality, much needed service that brings a value to the marketplace. Those do have some impact, or those are things that you're passionate about on another level. So it's a really great point. And so I want to talk a little bit about the early days of the business. So I know you had mentioned how you guys really came across the opportunity and how it started to grow. But were there any challenges or failures that you faced that really helped shape the direction of the business? And maybe you can share a story or two and what you learned from that and what the outcome was.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we faced every challenge along the way. I think a lot of our challenges stemmed from just my willingness to jump into things at such a high speed. I wasn't taking time often to take a step back, even if it was just for a few days, to think, okay, what is our best option here? For example, once when we were really getting some legs and we were starting to really sell a lot of couches and get a lot of pickups, we needed another vehicle. And so we had been using a truck and, covering couches with tarps. And so that was an issue for a while there, but then we needed another vehicle. So we just went online, looked for a used truck, found one. The first one we went and looked at, we bought it from this guy who we met in a parking lot. Broke down on us about like a week later on the way to a delivery. And so we take it into the shop. Turned out that the vehicle had likely been, altered and was not at all a good purchase. And we ended up losing a lot of money on that thing just to have to get rid of it. That was one good example. I mean, some of the other challenges were probably we could have spent a lot more time early on looking at the structure of the business and looking at even just the structure of the partnership that we were creating. We took on another partner early on, and my co-founder and I, we had our disagreements along the way, and we ended up having to, kind of change directions on how we were forming this partnership. We're still all three of us are still partners and things are still going well, but we had to change stuff along the way that if we had sat down and talked about that early on and really discussed what are our roles in this business, what am I going to be doing, what are my strong suits and what should I be focusing on, and vice versa. Some of those things I think are valuable lessons that I will definitely be able to take into whatever my next venture is as well.
And let's talk about the partnership stuff just a little bit. Don't have to go into the nitty-gritty details of the disagreements. Don't want to pull any Band-Aids off any fresh wounds. But I think it's a great topic to talk about because there may be listeners who are looking to partner up with, whether it's friends or co-founders, or if they are looking at the technical side, they need to recruit a technical co-founder for their business. You mentioned that roles and responsibilities is one area that you should really talk about early on in the process. Is there anything else that you've realized is an important subject to cover in those early conversations when you're thinking about structuring your partnership, so to hopefully avoid future issues or at least have kind of plans in place?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a few types of partners. I think that there's a few types of entrepreneurs. There's the types of entrepreneurs who want to have a side hustle and have create a enterprise that's going to give them passive income, for example. Or there's the type of entrepreneur that wants to be heavily involved in all of the decision making and make it a full-time, here's what we're going to do and this is how we're going to grow. And I think that with some of with with my partner Lance, I think he wanted to be able to take more time off and be able to, use use the good couch as kind of more of a passive income and let it make some money and give him some more time to go and, work on his passion, the photography industry. And my goal in all of it was to really take this thing and open more locations, continue to grow it, and I really wanted to be involved day to day. I think that if we had discussed some of that like really early on and said, what's your personal goal in all of this, and what is your goal for the company? What are your personal goals? What are your objectives in life? And how is this company going to take us to where we both want to be? We could have resolved a lot of the disputes that we had a lot earlier on by just taking a look at that before we had just jumped into it,
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Thanks for sharing that. Has your network played any role in your success and the success of the business, just being who you surround yourself with or other people that you've come across in your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that especially in today's day and age with the international market, even just you're not just competing against people in your state or in your city. Like you're competing against people across the country and across the world. It's not so much true for our business, but I think that without a strong network of people to, even for me, it's much more a loose network. I have a lot of people who I can go to for advice on business. My dad is a entrepreneur and has started his own business, and so he has a lot of great advice. But then other entrepreneurs that I know through college or through friends of friends, and being able to just, you come across a problem and you want to figure out how am I going to be able to make the next step, and you might not have the information, you might even not know where to turn. You can't always just Google something. You have a specialized business in the used furniture industry, and I can't just look up, how do I go about this? So creating valuable networks such as I have now I have people in the industry, people who have worked for furniture stores, who have started their own used furniture stores, people who I can lean on and say, hey, when you came across this, how did you deal with this? Or what are the best practices in X, Y, and Z? I think that's been hugely helpful for me, definitely. And it's something that I could have also definitely focused on a little bit more early on. I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, we're self-sufficient and we like to be able to push ourselves to the next level without needing much help. But I think that as I've grown and as the business has grown, I've realized a lot more that these people around me are, they're extremely valuable, and I need to appreciate that more and utilize those relationships more. Something that I definitely would have done earlier on if I had the chance.
Yeah, and that leads into my next question. If you could go back and talk to yourself back in 2017, right as the Good Couch was getting started, is there any advice based on what you've learned over the last few years that you would give to yourself, just based on some of those lessons learned?
Any advice? I think that, man, there's so much stuff I could go back and improve. And I mean, I'm still so early in this journey. I'm learning every day and continuing to try to improve myself and improve the business. And but I think probably for me, one of the biggest things that I would go back and change is I would tell myself, when you're faced with a big decision, to and this is advice that was given to me by my dad, who's a great source of entrepreneurial wisdom. He said, take at least a few days to make a decision when you're faced with an important decision. If I could go back and have done that, even just in 3 or 4 places, I think we would be far ahead of where we're at right now. Just because I've made hasty decisions and just jumped straight into things, we made mistakes that, cost us like a month of catching up or whatever it was. But I think that, yeah, if I could go back and give myself that advice a few years ago, I would say when you're stuck with an important decision, just take a few days before pressing the button. You can always a few days is never too much time to take on important decisions.
Yeah, that's so true. There's something that really goes to the sleep on it advice, where sometimes you just need to let time work its magic in both your subconscious and your decision making faculties to give you the time to really think through what the options are, what the solutions are. So that's some beautiful advice to yourself. Nick, for anybody who is really enjoying this conversation and they want to learn more about you or the Good Couch project that you guys have got going on here, where can people find more and check you out?
Yeah, you can find the Good Couch on our website at thegoodusedcouch.com, or you can just Google the Good Couch. You can find us on Facebook, where we post updates and share stories. Facebook at the Good Couch as well. And then you can find me on LinkedIn at Nick Reichert. It's Reichert. And I'd be happy to connect and share with others.
Beautiful. And we'll definitely have that stuff linked up here in the show notes. But last question, is there any other advice that you would leave here for any aspiring entrepreneurs out there who are either just getting started or thinking about getting started in their own entrepreneurial journeys?
I think that through when you're an entrepreneur and you've taken on and started a business, you start to meet a lot more entrepreneurs and a lot more aspiring entrepreneurs. And I've talked with a lot of, old friends or new people I've met who will come to me with ideas or connect on social media somehow and throw an idea out and say, like, I want to get this started. Like, what should I do? I think that to just go ahead and take the first steps. Like, a lot of times the first steps in starting an entrepreneurial venture are just making some phone calls. Like, call around. If you're thinking about starting a food truck, like, call a company that actually builds food trucks, figure out what it's going to cost, and if you have an idea of what you would want to sell, like, how do I source that food? And then maybe through looking at that, you learn enough to say, hey, this isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. I could do this for, work an extra job for 3 months and save up the cash to go ahead and do this. Or maybe you find, this looks like it's not exactly what I thought it was and might not be the thing for me. So I'd say for someone who's just looking at getting started, I would definitely say just get started, but take those steps of calling around, doing the research, and not just Googling. I think a lot of times we just fall back onto Google or YouTube and we look those things up, and that can be hugely helpful. But oftentimes, just making a phone call, making a connection, and that connection could be someone who stays with you through your entire journey if you decide to continue on with your idea. So that would be the advice I would give.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you mentioned too, sometimes Googling, could be great, but also I totally agree with you. That can be a trap at times where sometimes you feel like you're taking action and making progress by, hopping on the old Google machine and researching things and do what you might think is strategic planning, but really you're just procrastinating on doing the things like making the phone calls that are actually going to start moving you in the right direction. So that's also a great call out to avoid that trap. Well, Nick, I really appreciate the time that you've shared here on the show today. I think that your story is super cool, and a lot of the lessons that you've learned and shared with us today are going to be massively helpful for anybody who's listening and looking to get started in their own journey. So I appreciate you being here, and thank you for sharing everything that you have.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Brad.
Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, would you mind doing me an enormous favor? Could you drop a quick rating or review right there in your Apple Podcasts app on your phone? It helps so much in growing the show and helping more people find it. And when more people listen, we get better guests to come teach us cool stuff. It would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.